Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mountain Lake Journal. I'm Tom Halleck. This week, New York State Senator Dan Stec and sheriffs from several counties along the border are calling for the repeal of New York's green light law, at least in counties right along the Canadian border, which they say is hindering their ability to help Border Patrol deal with the influx of illegal immigrants crossing the northern border.
What this would do is this would exempt border counties from the green light law, period, full stop.
Republican State Senator Dan Stec says sheriff's departments and other law enforcement agencies need to be able to share data when it comes to apprehending migrants who are illegally crossing the northern border by the thousands.
So far this year, they've had 18,000 apprehensions in the Swanton sector, which runs from New Hampshire to Watertown. There's about 10 different sectors along the Canadian border. The next highest number is the sector out near Seattle, Washington, and that's just over 1,000 apprehensions. So there's 18,000 here. 80–90% of the illegal crossings on our northern border are happening here. And that 18,000 number this year is up from 2 years ago. That number was around 2,000. It's a growing problem, and it is very specific to New York State.
Stec made the call to repeal the state's green light law alongside fellow North Country lawmakers and sheriffs from 4 of the counties right along the Canadian border.
All we're asking for in law enforcement is a fair chance, just an opportunity to use the tools and resources with other agencies so that we can partner to create a stronger bond to keep all of our communities the safest that we possibly can.
The green light law, passed in 2019, allows undocumented immigrants to get a driver's license. Those applying must present multiple documents, including other forms of ID, like a passport or foreign driver's license. There is also a provision in the law that prohibits their driving information from being shared with federal authorities.
The law prohibits local and state law enforcement in New York State from communicating and sharing certain data, the data that you would get when you run a plate, with our federal law enforcement partners, so specifically ICE, Border Patrol.
Leslie Holman, who is an immigration attorney in Burlington, says the practice of sharing a driver's data was shut down by a lawsuit.
There were people that were detained based on this information. And ultimately, that was challenged, and there was a lawsuit that was settled, which ended up in there being, stronger things put into place to make sure that this information was protected and that, people were not in danger of being picked up.
North Country Democratic Assemblyman Billy Jones, who also voted against the green light law, says he believes in data sharing between state and federal agencies. However, he says it's up to Congress to help Border Patrol agents along the border.
I would say let's put that back on, the federal government to get more help up here on the northern border. I think a lot of times the northern border gets forgotten in some of these national discussions.
At the federal level, U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand announced a bipartisan bill this week that would improve the tracking of illegal entries along the northern border. Gillibrand says the bill would help ensure that Customs and Border Protection has the data it needs to address the increase in unauthorized border crossings and to combat illegal drug and weapons trafficking.
At the same time, while they smuggle migrants south, they are trafficking guns and drugs from the United States into Canada. Until we update our northern border strategy, we will continue to be unprepared and unequipped to address this growing migrant crisis. It's time to give the northern border the attention it deserves and do what needs to be done to keep vulnerable people in our northern border community safe.
The bill would require that Homeland Security have a northern border threat analysis every 3 years. Meantime, Stec and these other lawmakers have put forth legislation they hope will be taken up in the upcoming legislative session. They say there's an urgent need to help the Border Patrol and northern communities deal with the influx of illegal migrants crossing the border.
I've got some people that are very close to taking matters into their own hands. None of us want to see that. Border Patrol is spread thin. I'm spread thin. We're doing the best we can. But when you can't even go out of your own house and comfortably use your own land, it's disgusting. And it's happening all the time. That's my concern in northern Franklin County.